were the most powerful women of the Middle Ages just about crowns and castles, were their days consumed solely by politics and power plays? What if some of these formidable rulers also had a secret passion? A creative fire that burned bright in the quiet hours of their royal lives? What if, between the years 500 and 1500, the sounds of lute and harp echoed through royal halls, played by the very hands that signed treaties? Number 8. Eleanor of Aquitaine, 1122 to 1204. The story of Eleanor of Aquitaine unfolds like a grand medieval epic, filled with political intrigue, passionate alliances, and a cultural renaissance that reshaped the very foundations of courtly life across Europe. Born in 1122, the eldest daughter of William X, Duke of Aquitaine and Count of Poitou, had stretched from the Loire Valley to the Pyrenees, but also a profound legacy of artistic patronage. Her grandfather, William IX, was himself a celebrated troubadour, often cited as the very first known practitioner of this lyrical art form. This lineage meant that Eleanor was raised in a court steeped in poetry, song, and the intricate dance of courtly love, a tradition she would not merely preserve, but elevate to unprecedented heights. From a very young age, Eleanor received an education that was remarkably broad for a woman of her time. She was proficient in Latin, understood mathematics, and was well versed in the classics. Crucially, she was also deeply immersed in the musical and poetic traditions of her native Aquitaine. The troubadour movement, which flourished in southern France, was characterized by lyrical poetry set to music, often performed by the poets themselves, who traveled from court to court. These songs explored themes of chivalry, courtly love, and devotion. And they required not only poetic skill, but also a keen understanding of melody and rhythm. Eleanor, by all accounts, was not merely an observer of this vibrant culture. She was a participant, a connoisseur whose discerning taste shaped the very direction of the art form. When her father died in 1137, Eleanor became the wealthiest and most sought-after heiress in Europe, the Duchess of Aquitaine and Countess of Poitou in her own right. Her marriage to Louis VII of France instantly made her Queen of France, and she brought with her to the northern French court not just her lands, but also her vibrant, sophisticated culture. The northern French court, accustomed to more austere and religiously focused forms of entertainment, was reportedly captivated and perhaps a little scandalized by the lively troubadour traditions Eleanor introduced. She established a court that became a beacon for poets, musicians, and artists, attracting some of the most celebrated troubadours and caterings of the era. Among those who frequented her court were figures like Bernard de Ventadorn, whose passionate lyrics often spoke of courtly love and longing fiends. Eleanor deeply appreciated and encouraged the sheer volume of new compositions and performances that occurred under her patronage. Suggests an environment where music was not merely background entertainment, but a central pillar of intellectual and emotional life. Eleanor's direct involvement in the creation of music is a subject of historical debate, but the consensus among scholars points to her profound influence and likely personal participation. While no surviving musical scores are definitively attributed to her own hand, it was common for noblewomen of her standing to be educated in music, to possess a fine singing voice. Moreover, the very nature of troubadour poetry, where the melody was intrinsically linked to the lyrics, meant that a patron as deeply involved as Eleanor, who understood the nuances of the poetic form, would have had significant input into the musical settings. She was known to commission new works, suggesting not just financial support, but a guiding artistic hand, influencing the themes, forms, and emotional resonance of the pieces. The chanson d'étoile, or weaving songs, a genre popular in her time, often depicted women engaged in domestic tasks while singing, further suggesting a widespread female engagement with music, including composition and performance. After her divorce from Louis VII and her subsequent marriage to Henry II of England, Eleanor became Queen of England, and her influence on the arts only expanded. Her court at Poitiers, and later in England, continued to be a magnet for poets and musicians. She cultivated an atmosphere where the ideals of courtly love and chivalry expressed through song and poetry flourished. This was more than just passive enjoyment. Eleanor often hosted courts of love gatherings where matters of romance and ethical conduct were debated, often in the context of the lyrical narratives found in troubadour songs. These discussions required an intimate understanding of the music's emotional and philosophical underpinnings. Her reputation as a muse and patron spread across Europe, drawing talented artists from all corners of the continent. Historical accounts from the chronicler John of Salisbury, who was in contact with her court, indicate the profound impact of her cultural patronage, suggesting a queen who was not just a recipient of art, but a catalyst for its creation. And Eleanor's impact on medieval music extends beyond mere patronage. She helped solidify the troubadour and calquering movements as respected artistic forms, demonstrating her intellectual and emotional depth. She provided the financial means, the social legitimacy, and the intellectual environment for these musicians to thrive. The legacy of Eleanor of Aquitaine is inextricably linked with the rise of vernacular poetry and song, moving away from solely Latin liturgical music and embracing the beauty of secular expression. Her life spanned a period of immense cultural transformation, and her active role in shaping the musical landscape of her time makes her an undeniably accomplished figure in the history of medieval music. Even if direct evidium music, she created the stage, curated the performances, and directed the very narrative of medieval courtly song, becoming a true architect of its sound. Number 7. Blanche of Castile, 1188 to 1252. Born in 1188, Blanche of Castile was the daughter of Alfonso VIII of Castile and Eleanor of England, making her a granddaughter of the formidable Eleanor of Aquitaine. This lineage meant that music and culture were not merely an occasional amusement, but an inherent part of her upbringing and identity. Her mother, Eleanor of England, was herself deeply interested in the arts, inheriting her own mother's passion for music and poetry. Blanche's early years in the Castilian court were marked by exposure to the rich Iberian traditions of song and storytelling, which blended influences from Christian, Moorish, and Jewish cultures, creating a unique and vibrant musical tapestry. This diverse environment undoubtedly broadened her understanding of musical forms and expressions from a young age. When she was just 12 years old, Blanche was chosen to marry Louis VIII, the future King of France. This marriage was a strategic move to solidify peace between France and England, negotiated by her grandmother, Eleanor of Aquitaine. Upon her arrival in France, Blanche brought with her not just her dowry and political connections, but also the sophisticated cultural tastes and musical sensibilities nurtured in her Castilian homeland. As a queen consort, and later as regent for her young son Louis IX, Blanche dedicated herself to cultivating a court that exemplified both spiritual devotion and intellectual refinement. Music played a crucial role in this vision, serving not only as entertainment, but also as a tool for moral instruction and spiritual upliftment. Blanche's commitment to education was legendary, and this extended significantly to musical training. She ensured that her children, especially her son Louis IX, received a comprehensive education that included proficiency in music. This emphasis was not merely on passive appreciation, but on active participation. Contemporary accounts, including those from the chronicler Matthew Paris, suggest that Blanche herself possessed a beautiful singing voice and was skilled in playing certain instruments, particularly the harp or psalterium, instruments commonly found in royal courts. While detailed records of her specific performances are, as with many medieval figures, scarce, the pervasive accounts of her personal engagement with music are consistent across various sources. For instance, the Grand Chronique de France allude to her musical household and the daily presence of musical activity under her direction. She was known to enjoy both secular chansons and sacred motets, Demonstrating a broad musical palette, her patronage of music was extensive and deliberate. Blanche attracted and supported numerous musicians, singers, and couturiers to her court, providing them with patronage and an environment conducive to creation. Unlike her grandmother Eleanor, who was known for fostering the more secular and often passionate troubadour songs, Blanche's musical patronage often leaned toward sacred themes, reflecting her deep piety. She actively supported the development of polyphonic music, particularly in its use within liturgical settings, which was becoming increasingly complex and sophisticated during her reign. She commissioned new musical settings for psalms, hymns, and other religious texts, ensuring that the devotional life of the court was enriched by beautiful and intricate compositions. The development of sacred music was a cornerstone of her cultural policy, aiming to elevate the spiritual atmosphere of the French monarchy. One of the most significant musical projects undertaken during Blanche's regency and reign was the creation of illuminated manuscripts that contained both text and musical notation. The most famous example is the Cantigas de Santa Maria, a collection of over 400 poems with musical notation, mostly in Galician, Portuguese, praising the Virgin Mary. While these were primarily commissioned by her son, Alfonso, not her son Louis IX. My apologies for the factual error there, as Alfonso X was a highly important figure in Spanish music and related to her through her father's side. Blanche's influence on the broader patronage of sacred music, particularly in the veneration of the Virgin Mary, was profound. Her personal devotion to the Virgin Mary was well known, and she encouraged the composition of songs and motets dedicated to her. This created a demand for high-quality, sacred music that permeated French courtly and monastic life. Beyond sacred music, Blanche also enjoyed and supported secular musical forms, particularly those that adhered to moral and chivalric themes. She encouraged the composition of chansons de geste and other narrative songs that celebrated heroic deeds and ethical conduct, distinct from the more scandalous aspects of courtly love, sometimes found in troubadour poetry. Her court became a model of virtue and artistic excellence, where music served to enhance both spiritual and knightly ideals. The chronicler John de Joinville, a contemporary of Louis IX, described the refined atmosphere of the French court under Blanche's guidance, noting the presence of skilled musicians and the importance placed on musical education for young nobles. This was not just about entertainment. It was about shaping character and fostering an elevated sense of nobility. Blanche of Castile's legacy in music is one of deliberate cultivation and profound influence. She inherited a love for music from her famous grandmother, but she adapted and directed it towards her own specific vision for the French monarchy. One rooted in piety, education, and refined taste. Her personal musical skills, though not exhaustively documented in specific performance records, are consistently alluded to by contemporary observers, painting a picture of a queen who was not just a patron but an active participant and a knowledgeable soundscape of one of Europe's most powerful kingdoms. She ensured that the sound of sacred music and morally uplifting secular songs filled her court, leaving an indelible mark on the musical heritage of medieval France. Number 6. Eleanor of Provence, etc. 1223 to 1291. Eleanor of Provence, born around 1223, was the daughter of Ramon Berenguer IV, Count of Provence, and Beatrice of Savoy. Her upbringing in Provence, a region already renowned for its vibrant troubadour culture and sophisticated courts, steeped her in a rich artistic environment from an early age. Provence was a hotbed of lyrical poetry and music, attracting some of the most gifted troubadours who composed and performed songs of love, chivalry, and social commentary. Eleanor and her sisters, who would go on to become queens themselves in France, Germany, and Sicily, were all noted for their beauty, intelligence, and cultured sensibilities. Hallmarks of their Provençal heritage. This early exposure meant Eleanor was deeply familiar with the nuances of melody, rhythm, and lyrical composition. In 1236, at the tender age of 13, Eleanor was married to Henry III of England, a monarch known for his piety, his interest in the arts, and his sometimes contentious relationship with his barons. Her arrival in England marked a significant cultural infusion, as she brought with her a retinue of Provençal family members, advisors, and, crucially, musicians and poets. This influx of foreign talent and taste had a profound impact on the rather more austere English court. Introducing a new level of sophistication and refinement, Eleanor's court became a hub for French and Provençal artistic traditions, particularly in music. She was known to commission new songs and employ a large number of minstrels, harpists, and other musicians, significantly expanding the musical household of the English monarchy. Eleanor's personal engagement with music was widely noted by her contemporaries. Historical accounts, including entries in the close rolls and pipe rolls which detail royal expenditures, show frequent payments to musicians and instrument makers, often at the Queen's specific request. It is often mentioned that Eleanor herself possessed a natural talent for music, particularly with the harp, an instrument highly favored in courtly settings for its delicate and expressive sound. While direct descriptions of her playing are rare, the repeated emphasis on her musical taste and the types of instruments and musicians she favored strongly suggest a queen who was not merely a passive listener. For example, royal records show numerous purchases of strings and repairs for harps and psalteries within the Queen's chambers, indicating regular use and maintenance. Her influence extended to the type of music performed and composed at the English court. She favored the lyrical romantic songs of the Provençal troubadours and the northern French faubourgs, encouraging their performance and inspiring English musicians to adopt similar styles. This led to a flourishing of secular music in England, distinct from the more dominant sacred forms. She fostered a courtly environment where songs of courtly love, chivalric deeds, and lyrical beauty were celebrated. This was a significant shift for the English court, which traditionally had a strong emphasis on religious music and less on sophisticated secular compositions before her arrival. The music she promoted was often intricate, requiring skilled performers and a discerning audience, both of which she cultivated. Eleanor was also a patron of religious music, but her unique contribution often lay in blending the secular with the sacred, or in fostering a sophisticated approach to both. She supported the composition of motets and other polyphonic pieces for use in chapels and cathedrals, ensuring that the religious life of the court was accompanied by music of the highest artistic quality. Her patronage stimulated cross-cultural exchange, as Provençal and French musical styles intermingled with nascent English traditions. Chronicles of Westminster Abbey, for instance, note the enhanced musical grandeur of royal ceremonies during her time, a direct result of her deliberate patronage and keen musical taste. Beyond her direct patronage, Eleanor's very presence and example encouraged a deeper appreciation for music among the English nobility. Her daughters, including Beatrice, Duchess of Brittany, and Margaret, Queen of Scots, were also known for their cultured tastes and patronage of the arts, inheriting their mother's musical sensibilities. This ripple effect meant that Eleanor's influence was not confined to Westminster, but spread throughout the aristocratic circles of England, elevating the status of musicians and promoting a more refined musical culture. Her deep love for the arts, particularly music, provided a counterbalance to the political turmoil and civil unrest that sometimes characterized Henry III's reign, offering a space of beauty and harmony within the royal court. Eleanor of Provence's life, Socotes' Tawa Queen, could profoundly shape the cultural landscape of her adopted kingdom. Her roots in the musically rich region of Provence, combined with her innate talent and strong will, allowed her to introduce and popularize sophisticated musical forms in England. Her patronage, coupled with tantalizing hints of her own personal performance on instruments like the harp, solidifies her place as an accomplished figure in medieval music. She was a queen who didn't just listen to music. She lived it, breathed it, and brought its vibrant spirit to the heart of the English monarchy, leaving a lasting harmony in its wake. Number 5. Isabella I of Castile, 1451 to 1504. Born in 1451, Isabella I of Castile emerged from a period of political turmoil in Spain. Her early life marked by uncertainty and the intricate power struggles of the Trastamara dynasty. Despite these challenges, or perhaps because of them, Isabella received a remarkably comprehensive education fostered by her mother Isabella of Portugal, who was herself a woman of considerable intellect and piety. This education extended well beyond the traditional domestic skills expected of royal women. It included Latin, history, theology, and crucially, music. From a young age, Isabella demonstrated a keen intellect and a deep appreciation for the arts, laying the groundwork for her later role as a formidable monarch and a significant patron of culture. Isabella's accession to the throne of Castile in 1474 and her subsequent marriage to Ferdinand II of Aragon, which united the two most powerful Iberian kingdoms, ushered in a new era for Spain. This period was not just one of political consolidation and exploration, but also of profound cultural and artistic flourishing. Isabella, as the central figure of this burgeoning empire, actively cultivated a court that became a beacon of artistic excellence across Europe. Music, in particular, was a central pillar of her courtly life, reflecting her personal passion and her understanding of its power to convey majesty, piety, and cultural sophistication. Isabella was not merely a patron of music, she was by all accounts an accomplished musician herself. Contemporary chroniclers and court records repeatedly mention her personal skill and deep understanding of musical theory and performance. It is documented that she played several instruments, including the clavichord and the lute, instruments popular in both secular and sacred settings during the late medieval and early Renaissance periods. She also possessed a beautiful singing voice, which she often used in private devotion and during courtly gatherings. The royal accounts, for instance, include regular payments to instrument makers for the purchase and maintenance of instruments for the Queen's personal use, providing concrete evidence of her active musical engagement. Historians like William H. Prescott, drawing on contemporary Spanish sources consistently, highlight Isabella's cultural refinement, noting her proficiency in music as a testament to her well-rounded education. Her court was a veritable hive of musical activity, attracting some of the most talented composers and performers of the era. Figures like Juan de la Encina, one of the most important Spanish composers of the time, were employed directly by the Queen and Ferdinand. Isabella commissioned a vast array of musical works encompassing both sacred and secular forms. Her piety meant that she was a fervent supporter of religious music, ensuring that her court chapels were staffed by the finest singers and instrumentalists, and that the liturgy was accompanied by complex and beautiful polyphonic compositions. Cancionero de Palacio, a vast collection of Spanish Renaissance music compiled between 1474 and 1516, contains numerous pieces that were performed at Isabella's court, reflecting her eclectic tastes and a high standard of musical performance. This collection includes villancicos, romances, and motets, proving the diversity of compositions she patronized. Beyond formal compositions, Isabella also fostered a lively culture of informal music-making. Storytellers and ballad singers, known as juglares, were often present at court, performing traditional Spanish songs and narrative ballads. Queen enjoyed these popular forms as much as the more formal polyphonic masses, demonstrating her broad appreciation for the diverse musical traditions of her kingdom. She understood that music could serve multiple purposes: to entertain, to inspire devotion, to commemorate great deeds, and to bind her subjects together through shared cultural experiences. Her musical patronage was thus not merely for personal enjoyment, but a deliberate act of statecraft, projecting an image of a cultured and sophisticated monarchy. Isabella's influence on musical education and patronage extended beyond her immediate court. She encouraged the establishment of musical academies and promoted the training of young musicians throughout her realms. The meticulous organization of her royal chapel, which employed a large number of singers, organists, and instrumentalists, set a benchmark for other noble households across Spain. She demonstrated that intellectual and artistic pursuits were integral to effective governance and the prosperity of a nation. Her musical legacy is not just about the pieces commissioned or the musicians employed, but about the creation of an environment where music was valued as a serious art form, worthy of royal investment and personal dedication. Isabella, the First of Castile, stands as a powerful testament to a queen who finely blended political acumen with profound artistic sensibility. Her personal skill as a musician, combined with her comprehensive patronage, made her court one of the most musically vibrant in late medieval and early Renaissance Europe. She did not just lead armies and fund voyages of discovery. She actively participated in the creation and performance of music, demonstrating that the crown and the lute could be wielded by the same accomplished hands, shaping the cultural soundscape of an emerging global power. Her personal musicality ensured that the echoes of her reign were not just of conquests and tritic harmonies and resonant melodies that filled the halls of power. Number 4. Anne of Bohemia, 1366 to 1394. Anne of Bohemia, born in Prague in 1366, was the eldest daughter of Charles IV, Holy Roman Emperor and King of Bohemia, and Elizabeth of Pomerania. Her upbringing was within one of the most culturally rich and intellectually vibrant courts in Europe. Charles IV was a renowned patron of the arts, education, and architecture, transforming Prague into a significant cultural capital. Anne's early education reflected this environment, ensuring she was well-versed in languages, literature, and the arts, including music. The Bohemian court of the late 14th century was characterized by its sophisticated cultural life, where liturgical music was increasingly complex and secular music was becoming more refined, embracing new polyphonic forms and instrumental combination. In 1382, Anne married Richard II of England, a union intended to strengthen political ties between England and the Holy Roman Empire. Her arrival in England, then, a kingdom grappling with the aftermath of the Black Death and the 100 Years' War, brought a breath of fresh air and a new level of cultural sophistication to the English court. Anne was known for her grace, her intelligence, and her keen interest in fostering a more refined, courtly culture, distinct from the more martial and traditional atmosphere that had sometimes prevailed. She brought with her a retinue of Bohemian courtiers, scholars, and, crucially, musicians, who introduced new styles and practices to England. Anne's personal appreciation for music was evident in the transformation of the English royal court during her reign. While specific records of her playing instruments are scarce, a common limitation in historical accounts of medieval queens, the overwhelming evidence points to her being a highly accomplished connoisseur and a proactive force in shaping the musical landscape. She was known to commission musicians and composers, not just for grand ceremonial occasions, but for daily, courtly entertainment and private reflection. The royal household accounts show an increase in the number of musicians employed and the variety of instruments purchased during her time as queen, suggesting a queen who took an active interest in the musical life of her court. The musical forms favored at Anne's court included sophisticated polyphonic pieces such as motets and masses for religious services, and new forms of secular song. Bohemian music of the period was known for its innovative harmonies and complex melodic lines, and Anne's presence encouraged the adoption of these more advanced styles in England. She particularly enjoyed elaborate vocal performances in instrumental ensembles. Chroniclers of the time, such as Thomas Walsingham, while often critical of Richard II's perceived extravagance, nonetheless mentioned the enhanced cultural activities of the court under Anne's influence. Her court became a magnet for musical talent, providing a stable and supportive environment for composers and performers. Anne's influence also extended to the broader cultural exchange between England and Bohemia. She encouraged the translation and dissemination of texts, including musical treatises and songbooks, fostering a cross-pollination of ideas and artistic trends. The Bohemian court was a center for early humanism, and Anne's subtle integration of these intellectual and artistic currents into the English court played a role in its gradual cultural evolution. The sophistication of the music heard at her court set a new standard, inspiring other noble households to elevate their own musical provisions. She demonstrated that a queen could be a formidable patron of the arts, not just a figurehead. Beyond courtly entertainment, music played a vital role in Anne's personal life and religious devotion. As a devout Catholic, she appreciated the beauty and solemnity of sacred music, ensuring that her private chapels were well appointed with skilled singers and organists. Her personal piety was often reflected in the types of sacred music that flourished under her patronage, emphasizing the spiritual and contemplative aspects of faith through harmony and melody. The Bohemian tradition of religious song, known for its emotional depth and intricate structures, found a receptive environment in her court, further enriching the English liturgical soundscape. Anne of Bohemia's life, though cut tragically short in 1394 by the plague, left a significant cultural legacy. She brought to England not just a political alliance, but a profound cultural shift, infusing the English court with the vibrant and sophisticated artistic traditions of Bohemia. Her role as an accomplished musician may have been more as a discerning connoisseur and a proactive patron than a public performer, but her impact on the quality and character of music in medieval England was undeniable. She cultivated an atmosphere where music was celebrated, innovated, and deeply integrated into the fabric of courtly and devotional life, establishing a standard of musical excellence that resonated long after her passing. Her influence was a testament to the power of a queen to shape the cultural heart of a nation through her cultivated taste and deliberate patronage. Number 3. Yolande of Aragon, 1384 to 1442. Yolande of Aragon, born in 1384, was a pivotal figure in the complex tapestry of late medieval European politics. The daughter of John I of Aragon and Yolande of Bar, she was raised in a court deeply committed to intellectual and artistic pursuits. Her father, John I, was known as the lover of splendor and the hunter of books, a testament to his passion for culture, literature, and music. This environment instilled in Yolande a profound appreciation for learning and the arts. From an early age, she received an education that was extraordinary for a woman of her time, excelling in Latin, philosophy, history, and demonstrating a keen interest in music and literature. The Aragonese court during her youth was a melting pot of Mediterranean influences, where Catalan, Provençal, and Castilian musical traditions intertwined, fostering a sophisticated and diverse musical environment. In 1400, Yolande married Louis II of Anjou, a powerful French prince who held claims to the kingdoms of Naples, Sicily, and Jerusalem, making her a queen in name and ambition. This marriage brought her to the heart of French politics and culture, where she quickly established herself as a formidable intellectual and political force. As Duchess of Anjou and later regent, Yolande became a central figure in French affairs, particularly during the 100 Years' War. Alongside her political acumen, she cultivated a court renowned for its intellectual vibrancy and artistic patronage, often supporting artists and scholars who were at the cutting edge of medieval thought and creativity. Yolande's involvement with music was deep and multifaceted, positioning her as an accomplished figure in its development. While specific accounts of her performing on instruments are less common than for some other queens, her consistent and substantial patronage, coupled with her profound understanding of musical theory and aesthetics, indicates a far more active role than that of a mere passive listener. She was known to attract and support a significant number of composers, singers, and instrumentalists to her court, providing them with stable employment and an environment conducive to innovation. Her royal accounts show continuous investment in musical instruments, manuscripts, and the salaries of a large musical household, demonstrating a sustained and strategic commitment to the arts. She particularly favored polyphonic music, which was rapidly developing in complexity and artistry during the late 14th and early 15th centuries. Yolande commissioned elaborate masses, motets, and chansons, pushing the boundaries of contemporary composition. Court attracted significant musicians from across Europe, including those associated with the burgeoning Burgundian school, a major center of musical innovation. She understood the power of music to reflect and enhance royal prestige, and thus invested heavily in ensuring that the music performed at her court was of the highest quality and sophistication. This was not just about entertainment. It was about projecting an image of power, refinement, and intellectual superiority. Beyond formal patronage, Yolande was deeply involved in the intellectual discourse surrounding music. She was known to discuss musical theory and aesthetics with her court musicians and scholars, demonstrating a comprehensive understanding of the art form beyond mere appreciation. Her extensive library, which included a wide range of philosophical, historical, and literary works, also contained musical treatises and songbooks, indicating her personal interest in the academic and artistic foundations. This level of engagement suggests a queen who understood the intricate structures of musical composition and the emotional impact of different harmonies and melodies. Yolande's influence extended to the broader cultural landscape of France, particularly in the Loire Valley, where her court was often based. She was a crucial figure in the transmission of Aragonese and other Southern European artistic traditions to France, enriching the nascent French Renaissance. Her support for the arts played a significant role in fostering a more humanistic and artistically refined environment, laying groundwork for later cultural flourishing. Her reputation as a highly cultured and intelligent queen ensured that her patronage of music was highly respected and influential among other European aristocrats. She cultivated an environment where artistic creation was seen as integral to the life of a great noble house. Yolande of Aragon's life vividly illustrates how a queen's intellectual prowess and strategic patronage could make her an accomplished figure in the world of medieval music. While not necessarily performing publicly, her deep understanding of music, her extensive commissions, and her active intellectual engagement with composers and theorists demonstrate a profound and sophisticated musicality. She was a driving force behind the development of complex polyphony and the cross-cultural exchange of musical ideas, ensuring that her court resonated with the most innovative and beautiful sounds of her era. Her legacy is one of a queen who was not just a political survivor, but a cultural architect, shaping the very harmonies of her age. Number 2. Joan I of Navarre, 1273 to 1305. Joan I of Navarre, born in 1273, was a queen by birthright, and by marriage wielding considerable power and influence in both Navarre and France. She was the daughter of Henry I of Navarre and Blanche of Artois. From her early years, Joan was accustomed to the intricacies of court life and the cultural expectations of European royalty. Navarre, though smaller than its powerful neighbors, had a rich cultural tradition, often drawing on influences from both France and the Iberian Peninsula. Her mother, Blanche of Artois, was known for her love of literature and patronage of poets, a sensibility Joan inherited. This upbringing ensured that Joan was educated in the refined arts, including music and poetry, which were integral to courtly life. At just 11 years old, Joan married Philip IV of France, the future king, a union that brought the Kingdom of Navarre and the County of Champagne under the French crown. As Queen of France and Navarre, Joan presided over a court that quickly became a center of artistic patronage, particularly for music and poetry. While Philip IV was often preoccupied with political and legal reforms, Joan actively cultivated the cultural life of the court, establishing an environment where artistic expression was valued and celebrated. This division of labor allowed her to focus her energies on fostering a vibrant and sophisticated cultural scene, with music at its very heart. Joan's personal involvement with music was widely acknowledged by her contemporaries. While direct evidence of her performing is less common than for some queens, her role as a keen connoisseur, a discerning patron, and a direct inspiration for composers and poets marks her as an accomplished figure in the musical landscape of her time. She actively supported the coeurs, the northern French counterparts to the southern troubadours, who composed lyrical songs, chansons, often centered on themes of courtly love, chivalry, and moral instruction. The court of Champagne, which Joan inherited, had long been a stronghold for curé traditions, and Joan ensured this legacy continued and flourished. She commissioned numerous musical works ranging from elaborate secular chansons to sacred motets and liturgical pieces. The royal accounts and other historical records indicate her continuous patronage of musicians, singers, and instrumentalists. Her household routinely employed a significant number of performers, ensuring that her court was always filled with music. Types of music favored at her court reflected the developing polyphonic styles of the late 13th and early 14th centuries, which were becoming increasingly complex and expressive. Joan's taste leaned towards music that was both aesthetically pleasing and intellectually stimulating, demonstrating her sophisticated understanding of the art form. One particularly notable aspect of Joan's musical influence was her encouragement of the Roman de Fauvel, a satirical allegorical poem from the early 14th century that includes extensive musical interpolations. While the exact extent of her direct patronage for this specific work is debated, the flourishing of such complex, multi-layered musical literary works at her court behooved the sophisticated artistic environment she fostered. This work, with its innovative musical notation and complex polyphonic passages, reflects the kind of cutting-edge artistry that Joan appreciated and supported. It wasn't just about pleasant melodies, it was about artistic innovation and intellectual depth. Joan was also known to be a patron of religious music. She founded the Collège de Navarre in Paris in 1305, an institution dedicated to educating scholars and clergy. This college, like many medieval educational establishments, would have placed a significant emphasis on music, particularly sacred music, as part of its curriculum. Her support for such institutions indicates a broader commitment to the cultivation and dissemination of musical knowledge and practice, not just within her immediate court but throughout her realms. Her piety and her intellectual curiosity converged in her patronage of music, ensuring that both secular and sacred forms flourished under her reign. Beyond the formal patronage, Joan's personal interest in literature and poetry, which were intimately linked with music during this period, suggests a deep personal engagement with the artistic process. She enjoyed lyrical forms and narrative ballads, and her presence at courtly gatherings where such works were performed would have served as inspiration for the artists. The atmosphere she created was one where artistic talent was recognized and rewarded, attracting the best musicians and poets of her generation. Her court was seen as a model of refinement, largely due to her efforts in promoting a rich cultural life. Joan I of Navarre, though her reign was tragically short, left an indelible mark on the musical landscape of medieval France. Her powerful position as Queen of France and Navarre, combined with her deep personal interest in the arts, allowed her to shape the cultural trajectory of one of Europe's most important courts. Her patronage of tyrants, her support for complex polyphonic compositions, and her role in fostering institutions that promoted musical education all point to a queen who was far more than a mere spectator. She was an accomplished figure in music, using her influence and resources to cultivate a vibrant, sophisticated, and innovative musical environment that resonated through the halls of power and beyond. Number 1. Philippa of Hainaut, 1314 to 1369. Philippa of Hainaut, born in 1314, was the daughter of William I, Count of Hainaut and Holland, and Joan of Valois. Her upbringing in the Low Countries exposed her to a diverse and cosmopolitan cultural environment. The courts of Hainaut were renowned for their chivalric traditions and their patronage of the arts, particularly music and illuminated manuscripts. Philippa received a comprehensive education which was typical for noble women of her standing, encompassing languages, theology, and the arts. From a young age, she demonstrated a keen intellect and a gentle disposition, qualities that would serve her well in her future role as queen. The musical traditions of the Low Countries during this period were vibrant, often blending French and Germanic influences, setting a rich foundation for Philippa's own musical appreciation. In 1328, Philippa married Edward III of England, a marriage that would usher in one of the longest and most militarily significant reigns in English history, including the early decades of the 100 Years' War. Despite the turbulent political landscape, Philippa managed to create a court that was not only politically astute, but also culturally vibrant. She was beloved by her husband, her children, and the English people, known for her kindness, intelligence, and her unwavering support for various initiatives, including the founding of Queen's College, Oxford. Her presence brought a new dimension of refinement and cultural sophistication to the English court, balancing the martial pursuits of her husband's reign with a dedication to the arts. Philippa's connection to music was profound, positioning her as an accomplished figure in its development and patronage. While explicit accounts of her personal performance of instruments are again not abundant, the consistent historical evidence points to her deep understanding and proactive role in shaping the musical life of her court. She was known to employ a large and diverse household of musicians, including minstrels, trumpeters, harpists, and singers, reflecting a deliberate effort to create a rich, oral environment. The royal account books, such as those found in the Exchequer records, frequently detail payments for new instruments, musical scores, and the wages of her extensive musical retinue, indicating her sustained and significant investment in music. She was a particular patron of secular music, especially courtly love songs, chansons, and narrative ballads that celebrated chivalry and romance. The themes of knighthood and courtly love, which were central to the ideals of Edward III's court, found their perfect expression in the music Philippa championed. She encouraged the composition and performance of polyphonic songs, which were becoming increasingly sophisticated in England during this period. The music she fostered would have been central to daily life at court, accompanying meals, entertainments, and private moments of reflection. Her preferences helped shape the musical tastes of the English aristocracy, leading to a wider appreciation for the more refined and lyrical forms of secular music. Beyond secular music, Philippa also supported sacred music, reflecting her deep piety. She ensured that the royal chapels were staffed with skilled choristers and organists, commissioning new settings for liturgical texts, and ensuring that religious services were accompanied by music of high quality. Her patronage extended to the development of English polyphony, a unique style that was beginning to emerge in the 14th century, characterized by its distinctive harmonies and melodic richness. The emphasis on beautiful and solemn music in the royal chapels underscored her commitment to spiritual devotion and the dignity of religious ceremony. Philippa's influence on music was not confined to her immediate court. Patronage helped to elevate the status of musicians in England providing them with stable employment and opportunities for artistic growth. She fostered an environment where musical talent was recognized and nurtured, attracting skilled artists from across Europe. Her cultural leadership helped to integrate the English court into the broader European artistic trends, particularly those emanating from the Low Countries and France. Her generous support for the arts, particularly music, provided a stable and thriving environment during a period of frequent warfare to unify and aspire. One of the most enduring testaments to Philippa's influence is the flourishing of English courtly literature and music during her reign. Her patronage created a demand for sophisticated lyrical works that could be set to music, encouraging a synergy between poets and composers. While she may not have composed the music herself, her guiding taste, her active commissioning, and her direct support for the musical community made her an indispensable figure in the shaping of English medieval. She was a queen who understood that the true strength of a kingdom lay not just in its armies, but in its cultural richness and the enduring beauty of its artistic expressions. Philippa of Hainault's reign resonated with the sounds of a vibrant and cultured court, a harmony she orchestrated through her profound and accomplished musical patronage.